Hello, you filthy animals, and welcome to Arrow Season 3, Episode 3 of the Arrowverse Rewrite series. I am sorry to anyone who is still following this. Obviously my channel is very small, so you don't get the impression that many people are watching. But there have been quite a number of comments who are asking for the next episode. So I'm sorry it's taken this long. The reason for that is partly I kind of lost interest. I was in more of a Game of Thrones mood, so I was reading the books for the first time, although I'd already seen the show. And also because, if you can't tell, I'm still in school. So point is I was busy. But I'm back now. I have episode 3, as you can see, and I've already recorded the audio for episode 4 and 5, so those should be coming out soon. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get into it. This episode will be a Roy Harper centric episode, and the plot will be similar to the original season 3 episode 6 called Guilty. Roy will start the episode reading the letters that Thea has been writing to Oliver. He'll be alone in the mansion because it's in the daytime, so Timaro can't meet up. Oliver's busy at Queen Consolidated with his job, and so is the rest of Timaro with their respective jobs. Diggle's still Oliver's bodyguard, and Felicity is still working at that retail store. And Dinah, who at the moment isn't really part of Timaro, she's just a side member. Well, you all know her job, she's a lawyer. So like I said, Roy is reading the letters, and this will further cement to the audience just how much he misses Thea. We'll see him reading those quietly, then he'll make a call to an unknown person and ask if that person is free. Then the episode will cut to Dinah Lance, who we'll see following the original plot of the episode, which featured the introduction of Ted Grant, otherwise known as Wildcat, where there are some murders happening in the episode and he's suspected of it because he had previously confessed to a similar crime. Everything from the original episode will happen exactly the same, except Ted Grant in the rewrite will be older. Not so old that it's unrealistic for anyone to accuse him of murdering anyone, but a much older man than he was in the original. So anyway, switching back to Roy, we'll see that the friend who he had called is his old friend Sin. She'll come over the Queen Manor, and then they'll take one of the sports cars and drive off. And while they're in the car, Sin will say, "Roy, you sounded so stressed on the phone. Are you okay? Is Queen mistreating you?" "What? No. Oliver's been like I never knew my father. He was a firefighter who died in the line of duty when I was too young to remember. It's always been me and mom, and we didn't have that much growing up, but we had each other until she ended up dying of that drug overdose. I always thought that would also be my fate, that I'd die in the streets alone and forgotten, that I'd never really amount to anything in life, until that night, the night everything changed, the night the hood saved me and gave me a second chance. Now look how my life has changed. I live in the Queen Manor. I'm able to drive cars like this. I don't know. I just don't feel like I deserve any of it." Sin will immediately say, "Roy, don't be stupid. You're one of the best people I know. Of course you deserve it. Trust me, you're better off in the Queen Manor than you would be in the Glades these days. It's not that great. Roy, listen to me. I'm serious. You're a good person. As good as any of these people who live in places like the Queen Manor. And don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." This short conversation is to show the audience that Roy, he's feeling down. All these good things, obviously his life's made a full 360, and he just doesn't feel like he deserves any of it, just like he said, all these riches and stuff. And something else from the original episode. In the original episode, Roy thinks that he's the one who killed Sarah Lance. And obviously we find out later that it wasn't the case, but that's what he thinks. And for the rest of the episode, the audience is led to believe that may be the case. Obviously that wouldn't work with the way the rewrite is going, So instead, he will think that he's the one who's guilty of the crimes Ted is being accused of. The murders happening throughout the episode, he'll think he's the one, because by now Timaru's already aware of them and they've been investigating. So when he sees what's happening, he'll feel he's guilty and he'll go to Dinah to confess. And now she's in an awkward position because she's been trying desperately and failing to get an innocent man acquitted of these crimes. Ted is also innocent, just like Roy, and because this is his second time, will make the stakes a bit higher than the original. He's facing the death penalty. So Dinah's very desperate, and now someone showed up confessing to the crime and with details that weren't released to the public. So she's in a bit of an awkward position. So she calls Oliver, who drives down to her office, and when he walks in, he finds Roy and Sin seated arguing, as Sin's asking what possessed Roy to confess to a crime she obviously didn't commit. Well, Dinah is on the phone calling Ted to inform him of this recent development, that he has a chance. But when she sees Oliver, she cuts the call and explains the situation to him. Oliver immediately will say, "You can't possibly believe that Roy did this." And Dinah says if she did believe he did it, she wouldn't have called Oliver, she'd have called her father to arrest him. But at the end of the day, he is confessing and another innocent man is facing the death penalty. She can't just ignore this. If no other evidence comes out, there's always the chance that Roy is actually guilty and his confession could save Ted Grant's life. Oliver will reveal that the only reason that Roy knows these details that weren't revealed to the cops is because he's part of Timaru, and obviously they have the means to investigate further than what the public is led to believe, especially thanks to Felicity. So that's the only reason he knows these extra details. Then he'll ask to talk to Roy alone and figure everything out. So Sin and Dinah will step into the next room. As they are alone, Oliver will ask Roy, why is he doing this? Why is he confessing to a crime he didn't commit? And that's when he'll realize Roy genuinely believes that he did kill these people and that he deserves to go to jail for murder. And Oliver will realize that Roy's guilt is misguided and that he's feeling guilty for something else. So he'll tell Roy that they'll find the true killer together and then they'll talk about all this. Meanwhile, Sin and Dinah, who are alone, will also talk, and Sin will say, "Cassandra used to talk about you a lot, did she? Oh, you mean last year when she was undercover? Wait, that's right. You know her secret." "Know it? I was her eyes and ears. By the way, it's a good thing I got to meet you. I've been meaning to ask, is she coming back or do I just get rid of her stuff?" "Her stuff? What stuff?" "Her old gear. I still have it at the clock tower, but I didn't know what to do with it." "Her old gear? Leave it for now. We'll talk about it after this case is done." "Oh, okay. Well, I hope she comes back. We could really use her at the Glades." "What do you mean?" "Well, you know, she used to specifically focus on the Glades and the people in that area, and now without her, there's a new group that's harassing people in the Glades." "But what about the Arrow? Doesn't he protect all Star City?" "Oh, don't get me wrong. Life in Starling City is much better than it was before the Arrow showed up. But like you said, he protects all Starling City and he can't be everywhere at once." Before Dinah can respond to this, the conversation is interrupted by Oliver coming out of the room and asking Dinah to give him 3 days to find the actual killer before taking Roy's confession to her father. Dinah agrees but reminds Oliver of the stakes, that an innocent man could be sentenced to death if they don't find the true killer. So then we'll get a few scenes throughout the episode of Timaru tracking down leads and find what's going on, but they won't get anywhere with it. It'll all be a dead end. But at the 11th hour, when all hope seems lost, Ted Grant himself will confess and say that he's not willing to let an innocent, misguided youth take the fall for a crime he didn't commit. And so he confesses and reveals to Timaru and by default the audience that he was innocent both times, for the murders happening now and the murders that happened in the past, that it was his old sidekick Isaac Stanzler who was guilty of all these murders and he took the blame so that Isaac could be free. With this new information, Timaru will end up catching Isaac Stanzler the same way as it happened in the original episode, and it will get to a point where it's just Isaac Stanzler versus Speedy in a 1v1. Oliver's somewhere in the area. And before I describe the scene or the conversation that happens, fun fact, Isaac Stanzler is a character character the CW made up, and Wildcat, as far as I can tell, has never had a sidekick. So because I'm not killing off the character this episode, he needs a superhero name, and since Wildcat's never had a sidekick, I didn't know what to call him. So I know it's lame, but I'm gonna call him Wildkitten. Sidekick to Wildcat, Wildkitten. I think it works, and it can partly explain why he went evil, because I'd also go evil if I was called Wildkitten. So the two sidekicks are facing off against each other, and this is where Isaac tells Speedy that no one remembers him. From all the criminals he put away when he used to fight against Wildcat, no one acknowledges him, and in a few years no one will remember Speedy either. He will also say that the Arrow doesn't care about him, but just sees him as a tool in his arsenal, a sidearm to be used, pointed at his enemies, fired, and then thrown away the second he is no longer of any value. And this will contrast well with Roy's insecurities from early in the episode. But obviously Roy will say, "I'm not you," and he'll defeat Isaac or Wildkitten, and by himself. By the time Oliver shows up, Roy's taking care of it, and he says that fantastic line, "Don't abandon me," and Oliver says never. Though Oliver didn't hear the conversation, Felicity did, since she's always on the comms, and she's partly the reason why Roy was able to snap out of it. So she'll tell Oliver all about it, and then Oliver and Roy later will have a much needed sit down where Oliver will perform that same thing that he learned from Katana. By the way, before I go any further, the flashback for the episode will be exactly the same. If you don't remember, in this episode, it starts with Oliver chasing some guy in Hong Kong. The guy throws a letter in a box or something, and then Katana has to help Oliver remember what happened. So the same thing will happen here, where Oliver will help Roy remember that he didn't kill anyone recently, but the reason he feels all this guilt is because when he was under the effects of the Mirakuru, he killed a police officer. And Oliver will tell Roy to remember that he was not himself, and he didn't ask to be given the miracle. It happened to him. Slade Wilson forced it on him, and so it's not his fault that he killed that officer. But Roy still doesn't see it that way and says that he's still a murderer. Oliver will tell him that he's also a murderer, but he does what he can to help his city and to be as good a person as he can. And Roy is far better than Oliver. He shouldn't judge himself. Then Roy's section of the episode will end with him writing a letter to Thea saying he doesn't know if she's still in Coto Maltese or if she'll even get this letter, but he misses her. He misses her dearly, and he's sorry he hurt her. He tells her everything that's happened to him during the course of this episode, explains to her how down he's feeling and how much he misses her, and asks only if she's willing, of course, that he won't force her, but if she's willing, he'd really appreciate if she were to write back to him. And we'll see, he's not in that much better position than he was when he started the episode. Then the episode will end with Dinah visiting Ted Grant at his gym, and Grant will thank her for basically saving his life and going so far for him, even when he wasn't making it easy and he wasn't confessing. And as they begin talking of his old life as a vigilante, Dinah will say that she once knew another vigilante who was her friend and was the Canary, but it seems like she's gone for good and is never coming back, and her absence is being felt in the glades. And the way she'll talk, even though she won't say it, Ted Grant will be able to deduce that she wants to take up her friend's mantle and become the new Canary. And when he brings it up, Dinah will shake her head and say, "I did originally, but another friend told me I shouldn't try to become the Canary, that I'm not her. Instead, I should take her name and her legacy and make it my own, that I should become someone else. Something else." Ted will then say, "You remind me of another Dinah I once knew when I was young, and those with that name tend to be fearless and relentless in their pursuit of justice. You say you want to become someone else instead of the Canary. Might I suggest you become the blah?" And then the episode ends. The title card gets played across the screen. That's the end of the episode rewrite. Next episode, Draw Back Your Bow, will hopefully come out in a week's time. season, and the next 2 episodes will be a two-parter. Well, a bit of a two. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know this one wasn't that exciting since I didn't change much from the original episode, but this is one of my favorite episodes actually. And I want to take this opportunity to say that I know I'm changing a lot of season 3, and it's not that I dislike the original season. A lot of people do, I know, but I don't dislike the original Arrow season 3. If I had an issue with it, it's probably like 1 or 2 minor things. Otherwise, I enjoyed this season when it first came out, and I enjoyed it on the rewatch that I did recently, obviously for the rewrite. Anyway, if you enjoyed the rewrite, then feel free to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash any new button that YouTube ever comes out with, turn on those notifications so when eventually I release the next episode, you'll know when it came out. And if it is already out, click the link on your screen and enjoy. Until then, hail and farewell.